imagine trying to get your business noticed with over 3 million Facebook users out there.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
It really is. So how do you stand out?
Right. That's what we're looking at today with awareness campaigns.
Exactly.
So we'll be talking with folks at Adway Creative today.
They're a digital marketing agency that's helped businesses just like yours.
Yeah.
And
I mean, they've gotten some really good results with their clients.
oh, yeah, they have.
Over 100,000 new users with a 40% return rate for one.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Boosting Google Business Profile visibility by 540%. So they really know how to get a brand out there.
Yeah, and they have a great blog post that really dives deep into how to run these campaigns.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
When we talk about awareness campaigns, what are we talking about?
Awareness campaigns are really about laying the groundwork.
Okay,
It's not about pushing for immediate sales.
gotcha.
It's about introducing your brand to new customers and making a good first impression.
Okay, so it's really just getting your name out there.
Yeah,
Just brand recognition.
exactly. You want to be the first thing people think of when they need what you offer.
Okay, so how do we choose where to run these campaigns? We hear about Meta and Google a lot.
Both are really good platforms,
Okay.
but they have different strengths.
Okay.
Meta, which includes Facebook and Instagram, is really visual.
Yeah, very image focused.
Exactly. So it's a really good way to target specific demographics,
Yeah.
and you can really show off your brand's personality.
Okay, and what about Google?
Google has a huge reach.
Yeah, just massive.
Yeah, their search and display network,
Yeah.
along with YouTube. I mean, that's most of the internet right there.
Right, it's almost everyone.
Yeah, and you can target people based on what they're searching for.
So Google really has the power if you want to reach a lot of people.
Yes,
So-
but you really shouldn't pick just one.
Okay, so what's the ideal scenario then?
You want to be on both. Using Meta and Google together in your awareness strategy is going to be the best way to go.
So play to each platform's strengths.
Exactly. You want to meet your customers wherever they are.
All right, so let's get into the specifics then.
Okay.
Adway Creative recommends 4 to 6 weeks for Meta campaigns and 6 to 8 weeks for Google campaigns.
Right.
Why those numbers?
Well, it all comes down to how long it takes the algorithm to learn about your campaign.
Okay.
Plus, people need to see your message multiple times before it really sticks.
Repetition is key.
Yes, exactly. But these are just starting points.
Oh.
It really depends on your specific goals, your budget, the time of year. All sorts of things can impact how long your campaigns should run.
So those are just good guidelines to start with.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's say we launch our campaigns.
Okay.
How do we make sure that people remember our brand?
This is really where Adway Creative shines.
Okay.
They've identified a few creative strategies that are really effective and memorable.
All right, well, let's hear them.
Okay, so first you have what are called visual mnemonics. It's basically a visual that represents a core idea or benefit of your brand.
Okay.
Think of the Amazon logo.
With the arrow.
Exactly. It goes from A to Z, implying that they sell everything.
Right. Which they pretty much do.
Yeah, and it's simple, but incredibly effective.
So how would we come up with something like that for our business?
You have to ask yourself, what's your biggest benefit? How can you visually represent that?
Okay.
It could be a logo or a specific color scheme or even a recurring image you use in your ads.
So it's that one visual that represents your brand.
Right.
Okay, what else?
Okay. Then you have the von Riesdorff effect.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one.
This one is all about standing out.
Sure.
Think about Apple's 1984 Super Bowl ad.
Oh, yeah, vaguely.
It was unlike anything anyone had ever seen before, and it made a huge impact.
So for us, it's how do we stand out from everyone else in our industry?
Exactly.
Okay, that's a tough one.
Sometimes it means taking risks, but it can really pay off.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have sonic branding.
Sonic branding?
Yeah, it's all about sound.
Okay.
Think about the Netflix Totem.
Oh, yeah, of
You
course.
hear that and you know exactly what it is.
Right,
So could you create something like that for your brand?
like a jingle.
Yeah, or a sound effect, or even a specific voiceover style.
Interesting. Okay, I like that one.
Then you have brand characters.
Oh, like the Geico Gecko. Or
Exactly.
the Aflac Duck.
Yes, they're friendly and recognizable and makes something like insurance a lot more fun.
Okay, so we could use a character to personify our brand.
Right.
That's a good one.
And finally, consistent color schemes.
Okay.
Think Coca-Cola, red and white, or Tiffany blue.
Yeah, you see those colors and you know exactly what they are.
Exactly. What colors represent your brand and will help you stand out?
So we pick our colors and use them everywhere.
Exactly.
It sounds like there's a lot that goes into making a brand memorable.
There is, but when you put it all together,
Mm-hmm.
it can have a huge impact.
Okay, so we've talked about making our brand stick, but how does all this affect a business's bottom line?
Well, research has shown that 89% of people trust recommendations from people they know.
Word of mouth.
Exactly. And strong brand recognition leads to people talking about you.
Okay, so people remember you and they tell their friends.
Exactly. And that leads to customer loyalty.
Okay,
Studies show that almost 66% of customers are loyal to brands that they love.
that's a lot.
It is. And when people remember your brand, they're more likely to buy from you.
And that means more business for you.
Exactly.
This is all great, but it's a lot to keep track of.
It is, but it's important to not just launch your campaigns and forget about them.
Okay, so what should we be paying attention to?
Well, for Meta, you want to look at things like reach and frequency,
Okay,
ad recall lift, and brand lift studies.
and what about for Google?
For Google, you're looking at impressions, view rate, watch time, and brand interest.
So we're looking for positive trends with all of these.
Exactly. And keep in mind that real awareness doesn't happen overnight.
Okay.
It takes time, so be patient.
Oh,
Look at things like branded search volume and direct traffic to your website.
okay.
Those will tell you how your awareness campaigns are doing in the long term.
So don't get discouraged if you don't see huge results immediately.
Exactly.
Okay, well, this is all very interesting and helpful.
Good.
We've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
But when we come back, we're going to be looking at some real-world examples of successful awareness campaigns, and I'll be asking for some tips on how our listeners can create their own.
Damn it, good.
Stick around.
All right, so let's look at some examples of how these creative strategies work in the real world.
Okay, this is what I love to see.
Okay, so let's revisit that Amazon logo.
Okay.
You see that arrow pointing from A to Z, and you instantly know they have a huge selection.
Right. It's just so simple, but it works.
Exactly. It's subtle but effective.
Okay, what about another example?
Okay, what about the Got Milk campaign?
Oh,
Those ads with the milk mustaches.
I remember those. They were everywhere.
Right. And they were so successful at increasing milk consumption.
Okay, so just a simple image can be really powerful.
It can be.
Okay, what about the von Riesdorff effect? What's a good example of that one?
How about Old Spice?
Okay.
Their Your Man Could Smell Like campaign.
Oh, yeah, the guy on the horse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was so funny and unexpected.
And it worked.
It did. They went viral and got a whole new generation interested in Old Spice.
Okay, so sometimes taking a risk can really make you stand out.
Exactly.
Okay, so what about sonic branding? What are some good examples of that?
Well, you have the Intel Jingle.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic.
Right. 5 notes and everyone knows it's Intel.
And what about that THX sound?
The deep note.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that one's great. It's become synonymous with high-quality audio.
it really sets the mood.
It does.
Okay, what about brand characters? What are some of your favorites?
Oh, gosh, there's so many good ones.
I know, right?
The Geico Gecko, of course.
Yeah,
The Aflac Duck, Tony the Tiger.
all class.
They all make their brands more relatable and engaging.
Okay, and finally, let's look at some examples of color schemes.
Right, how about Tiffany Co?
Okay.
You see that blue box and you know exactly what it is.
It's just so elegant and recognizable.
Right, and then there's McDonald's.
The golden arches.
Exactly. So simple, but so effective.
I'm noticing a trend here.
What's that?
All these successful brands, they're creative and consistent.
Absolutely. And they all understand their target audience.
Okay, so how can our listeners apply this to their own businesses?
Well, remember those time frames we talked about?
The 4 to 6 weeks for Meta and the 6 to 8 for Google.
Yes. But those are really just guidelines.
Okay,
The first step is figuring out who your target audience is.
okay.
You need to know who you're trying to reach.
All right, so define your target audience.
Yeah.
Then what?
Then you can start to figure out which platforms and ad formats are going to be best.
Okay, and I'm guessing this is where those creative strategies come in.
Exactly. You need to decide which ones are going to work best for your audience.
Visual mnemonics, the von Riesdorff effect, all that.
Right. And once your campaigns are up and running, keep an eye on those metrics.
Make sure things are moving in the right direction.
Exactly.
And if it all seems a bit overwhelming,
Yeah.
you can always reach out to Adway Creative.
They can help you put it all together.
They're the experts.
They are.
So we've been talking about the initial campaign setup,
Mm-hmm.
but what about the long game? What happens after those 4 to 6 weeks or 6 to 8 weeks are up?
Well, you have to stay consistent.
Okay.
You've launched your campaigns, and now you have to keep that momentum going.
So keep creating content and engaging with your audience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Keep your brand top of mind.
And keep tracking those long-term metrics.
Yes. things like branded search volume and direct website traffic.
So we can see how things are progressing.
Exactly.
So even though those initial campaigns are important,
Mm-hmm.
they're just the beginning.
Exactly. Building a brand takes time.
This has been so helpful.
Good. I'm glad.
But before we wrap things up, I have one more question for you.
Okay. What is it?
What's one piece of advice you would give to business owners who are just getting started with awareness campaigns?
Don't try to be everything to everyone.
Right.
Find your niche and focus on what makes you unique.
So quality over quantity.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
remember, you don't have to do this alone.
Right. Adway Creative is there to help.
They are.
Okay, so we've covered a lot today.
We have.
But when we come back, we're going to be wrapping it all up and leaving you with some actionable next steps.
Sounds good.
Stick around. All right, so we're back.
We are, and ready to wrap up our deep dive into awareness campaigns.
And I think we've learned a lot
Yeah, we really have.
about how to build a brand that people will remember and engage with.
So let's recap.
Okay, what are the key takeaways here?
Well, first and foremost, awareness campaigns aren't about pushing those immediate sales.
Right, it's all about the long game.
Exactly. It's about introducing your brand, making it familiar, and creating that positive first impression.
That will hopefully lead to sales down the road.
Right. You want people to think of you when they need what you offer.
And to do that, we need to pick the right platforms.
Mm-hmm. Meta is great for visual storytelling and reaching those specific groups.
And they can really help you build a community around your brand.
Yes, exactly. While Google is amazing for reaching a huge audience.
Across all their different platforms.
Yeah, search, display, YouTube, you name it.
So we want to use both to be the most effective.
Absolutely. Use both Meta and Google to maximize your reach.
And how long should those campaigns run?
Well, Adway Creative suggests 4 to 6 weeks for Meta.
And 6 to 8 for Google.
Right. But remember, those are just starting points.
They're guidelines.
Exactly. Adjust the time frame to fit your needs and your goals.
Okay, so once we've got our platforms and our time frame figured out, how do we make sure our brand stands out?
Well, we went over some really great creative strategies.
Yeah, we did visual mnemonics,
Like the Amazon logo.
the Von Riesdorff Effect,
Like Old Spice's crazy commercials.
Sonic branding.
Like that Netflix Tadam.
Oh, and brand characters.
The Geico Gecko.
So many good ones.
There are. And then, of course, those consistent color schemes.
Like Tiffany Blue.
Exactly. All of those strategies can really help your brand cut through the noise.
They get people to remember you.
Exactly. But remember, building that brand awareness, it takes time.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Right. You have to be patient and consistent.
Keep putting out great content. Engage with your audience and keep an eye on those metrics.
And don't get discouraged if you don't see results right away.
It's about building something that lasts.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to challenge you to think about one small thing you can do today.
To boost your own brand awareness.
Maybe it's just brainstorming some ideas for a visual mnemonic.
Or coming up with a catchy jingle.
Or maybe it's just committing to posting more regularly.
Whatever it is, just take that first step.
And if you need help along the way, remember that Adway Creative is a great resource.
They can help you with all of it.
They're the experts.
They are, so don't be afraid to reach out.
So that wraps up our deep dive into awareness campaigns.
I hope you found it helpful.
I know I did. I've learned so much.
Good. I'm glad.
Feeling inspired and ready to get to work on my own brand.
That's great to hear. And remember, the most important thing is to be creative, be consistent, and most importantly, have fun.
Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time for another